The other thing you mentioned that I wanted to dive into a little bit more is data labeling. Because that's it's kind of the same thing that like a lot of tools kind of push you into. They're like, okay, there's certain data you don't want the AI to touch. Just label it as such, and we can do that. And then I have these advisory calls and people are like, okay, I've got 8 million files in SharePoint or in this repository. How do I label that? Right? Like how do we label stuff at scale? I think is the big question I'm getting. I'm sure you get that question too.
Yeah, look, in general, data discovery is a matter of scale, right? The success of data discovery and the classification, as well as labeling, it really what wins is the ability to scale. And our customers have billions of files, right? We have customers where we've scanned maybe 25 billion objects, which are mostly files. And so it takes it requires a very scalable system and ability to scale laterally, and also an understanding of planning, because it takes time, right? Time and money. And so you have to be able to understand what are the volumes of data that you have, and be able to obviously choose a tool that has the ability to scale laterally and give you that coverage. And it's physics, right? It's not a lot more than physics. At the end of the day, the classification engine and the labeling itself is just a few API calls, right? It's not something that changes from platform to platform. It's a constant. But the ability to do it at scale is very important, so that you'll add more and more scanners that be able to scan the data and label it, classify it and label it, right? The other thing to pay attention to is not to have any sampling, right? Sampling is very efficient if you just want to understand at the bucket level, right? Let's say it really depends on how you want to remediate, right? What type of controls can you put in place, right? So if you're just classifying the data and you're not remediating, or your remediation is very coarse-grained at the data source level or at the bucket level, you can apply kind of sampling. But with labeling, you probably need to do a full scan of that data, right? And so, again, that's a matter of scale. So you need to know how much data you're going to scan so that you can plan how many scanners you want to run or to have in place, and how fast you want to do it. And then, it takes a lot of sophistication. You can eliminate old and obsolete data so that you don't need to scan all of the data, just the recently changed data. You can do differential scanning so that you're just scanning data that changed recently and not necessarily going back and scanning all the data. Or you could do a combination of scanning and labeling the data that is being changed, but in parallel running backwards in time and scanning and labeling the data moving backwards, so that gradually over time you'll get all of your data labeled and scanned. So it's like you said, right? It's something that you should plan for and set expectations internally, how long it's going to take, because some people or some companies, if you don't have the right experience, any reasonable person wouldn't think that scanning a petabyte of data might take them months, right? So that's something to take into account.